Awesome. Hello, everyone. We got some people over there as well, so lots of people listening. Okay, who here plays Pokemon? Oh, that's a lot of hands. All right, now you might have heard of the title of today. So I'm going to be talking about the secret skills of the Pokemon TCG. Anyone know what I might mean by that? First hand up gets to answer. Zelda's not allowed to answer. I want a hand up, preferably from someone young. Someone, there we go, Ida. What do you think might be a secret skill? You think winning games is secret? Oh, that should be public, man. So, I've taught a lot of Pokemon over the years, and a secret skill is something that I conventionally don't teach. And the reason I don't teach is because these kind of things, if you do poorly, will actually lower your chance to win. And so what I'm going to try and talk about is a lot of dangerous, I guess, dangerous is a fun way to say it. They're very aggrandizing, but there are things that if you do wrong are pretty poor, but are really fun and can kind of win you games that you shouldn't win otherwise. Off the top of your head, I'm going to point to someone in the audience and I want to see if you have any idea what one of those might be. I picked the dad. Okay, you think that might be a one that if you do it wrong will lose your games? Okay, front row. Not attacking. Okay, interesting. All of these are pretty useful in their own right. I will let Zelda answer one. Let's see. She's got a spoiler for the script, so let's see what she does. Too slow. Sorry, too slow. I'm going to reveal these by actually doing kind of some interactive things at the start. Okay, so I'm glad no one spoiled the fun. I am going to need someone to come up. So the point of my talk, you want to come up? Absolutely, man. You come up from the back row. All right, all the way from my country. Okay, so the goal of today, as you can already tell, is I don't want this to just be some monolithic speech where I'm just talking to you guys. I want a lot of engagement because I think people learn a lot better if you are actually actively engaging. So before I actually tell you what I'm going to talk about first, I'm going to sit down here with, can you tell everyone your name? Asher. Awesome. Now, we're not actually going to start with Pokemon. So we're going to start with this. All right. This is a deck of playing cards. Yeah. You ever used them before? Yeah. Tons, right? We're going to do a game, okay? Yeah. I'm going to give you a bunch of cards. And then you're going to tell me a number of a certain card that you have in your hand, all right? So you could say, I've got 2 hearts, or I've got 1 7, all right? And then I have to figure out if you're lying or not. So your job is sometimes you'll lie, and sometimes you'll tell the truth, okay? Yeah. And if this backfires for me, I look really dumb. All right, so let's see, okay? So can you pick some cards for me? Pick a whole bunch. Oh, that's lots. Okay, I'm going to take a couple of those away. Yeah. So you got lots. All right, let's do that, okay? All right, now look at your hand for a little bit. All right, okay, good. All right, so you're going to think about it for a sec. You're going to think about it, all right? And then I'm going to get you to put the cards down and tell me.
Got 2 kings.
You got 2 kings, all right. Okay, how many cards you got?
7.
You're lying. Oh, very good. Should we try again? Sure. Okay, let's see. All right. Let's do it one more time. All right, you ready?
Okay.
Let's try and do this 3 times. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Never say it. How many cards you got?
5.
You're lying. You try one more time?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
How many cards you got in hand?
5.
I think you're lying. Haha. Thank you. Do you want to go sit down?
Sure.
Okay. Now, do you guys think I'm really unlucky and got it wrong all 3 times? Because it should be 50-50, right? So it'd be kind of unlucky to get it wrong all 3 times. Zelda?
It's because, like, so you don't want to listen to people's body language and you just want to, like...
Okay, so now you're reading from my script. So unfortunately, Zelda has some spoilers. So, you might have noticed, pretty unlikely to get it wrong all 3 times, right? In a row. So, I could actually tell that the first 3 times he had it every single time. What do you think in his body language made me so sure of that? Any ideas?
It might be partly to do with the fact that he asked him to count his cards afterwards.
Excellent.
To count his cards.
Bingo. Okay, so the first time out of the 3, I got it wrong. All right. Second 2 times, deliberately got it wrong. First time, no chance in hell. But you, based on what they do the first time, you can then see afterwards. Anyone play poker? Aha, we got some mums, we got some dads, none of the kids. Okay. Does this seem like anything you might have seen from poker before? Okay. So this first got picked up with Banet EX. And Banet EX has Poltergeist. Anyone know what Poltergeist does? Excellent, everyone knows, everyone knows, everyone knows. Can anyone compare how this might be like Poltergeist? Zelda.
You can lie about your hand saying you have a lot of trainers, and if they agree with you and they Poltergeist, and you have a lot of trainers.
Okay, so Zelda thinks you can lie. So we can't really lie to our opponent. But the situation here is I am the opponent, all right? My opponent's playing Banet, well, I'm playing Banet, and I can ask them how many cards in their hand. And how they present themselves and how they present the cards does have an element of whether they feel like they're confident or they're unconfident. Now, to do this, and this is all obviously you've figured out, this is about hand reading through body language rather than hand reading through calculations. So if I am holding up my cards like this, a conventional thing is that I'm confident, all right? So if I ask how many cards in hand and my opponent holds it up like this, they probably don't have that many items because they're showing me, look how many cards I have. I'm probably going to easily get knocked out, right? So they're thinking, well, you have good odds to knock me out. Here's my 8 cards. I've got 6 items. And they're trying to say, all right, go for it, Poltergeist. And I swear I had a 75% hit rate with Poltergeist for like no reason doing this. Now, why does it work with Poltergeist where it might not work with other things? Any ideas? What do we need to both be doing in order to be able to read their body language? I reckon we do something. Front row, can you have a guess? Nah?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so we have to be thinking about the same thing, right? So if I ask my opponent how many cards in hand and they act really scared, and I'm thinking, oh man, I want to Iona them, but in their head they're scared of boss. So they're giving me information about something that I'm actually not thinking about at all and not trying to ask. When do you think this could backfire? Any ideas when this might backfire? I love people talking back to me, it's great. That kid over there. He's turning away. He's turning away. You. When could this backfire? If you're trying to read your opponent based on body language, you've asked them how many cards and they've positioned their cards forward, when would it backfire?
They try and trick you.
They try and trick you. Excellent.
Confident when they're not confident.
Absolutely. So they're trying to deceive you. Or they're not thinking about what you might actually be thinking about. You're thinking about different things. This, and the reason I call it a secret skill, is that it's a last-ditch effort. You only read off of it when you have no other option, right? When you absolutely have to. And this is going to be the theme for all of this. And this is a nice kind of segue into something that is a bit more technical that I like talking about, which is game theory in Pokemon. So game theory in card games is extremely prevalent. Basically, it's the idea that if you make a choice and then the opponent changes what they do, then your choice might not have been optimal based on that. So typically that involves a lot of lying and a lot of bluffing and kind of thinking about what they might have in their hand. And you get into these mixed strategies scenarios is what it's called. So think about Pidgeot, all right? So your opponent has quick search and they quick search for boss for next turn, all right? If you Iona them, then they have a better odds to get other things they need. But if they got a different card or you kill the Pidgeot, based on the preparation for the next turn is incorrect, right? But in most scenarios in Pokemon, mixed strategy is really uncommon. So rather than war, which is all about deception, we actually play more like athletes. Basically, we're not trying to deceive the opponent like something like Magic or something like One Piece or something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to something like Pokemon where really we're just playing probabilities. Now, anyone play other card games other than Pokemon? Okay, I want you. Do you reckon you can answer something for me?
Yeah.
We got a mic for you too. What's a scenario that you could employ mixed strategy where you will make different choices based on what your opponent does?
And different card game?
Yeah, a different card game.
Well, in Magic, you can always bluff a counter spell if you don't have it.
Okay.
Just leaving up mana.
Excellent. Bluff counter spells. You might be able to bluff your opponent a lot more. Why can you do that in other card games and not Pokemon as much?
Because in Pokemon, you cannot interact during your opponent's turn.
Excellent. You can't interact with your opponent's turn. So in order to actually get a mixed strategy going, which is the idea that you would change your decision based on what your opponent does. Okay, so that leads to not everything being optimal. You need enough feedback. All right, so you need to be having a back and forth with your opponent over and over to actually have these scenarios kind of arise. In these interaction between the opponent, there's a lot more in Magic with counter spells, a lot more in other things, but in Pokemon, it's a lot more rare. So, body language is very, very risky to read from, especially if your opponent is super happy, but what if they read their hand wrong, right? What if they think that they've got game, right? And they think, oh man, I'm so excited. And you're like, wow, they look so confident. And they're like, yeah, I'm so confident. I don't have a poker face, but it's fine. And then you Iono them, right? But they didn't have game, and now they drew into it. So you made your decision based on false information. And with such little feedback to actually develop this thing where what I just did with the cards is I did develop a bit of a feedback loop. So I saw what they did the first time, I saw the outcome. So I saw their behavior and then whether I was right or wrong. And then I adjusted each time over and over and over. And so I reiterated. And there isn't enough interaction points in a game of Pokemon to ever actually do this. But you can sometimes get a tiny bit more information, like we said there, by prompting your opponent. So the way you ask them, how many cards in hand do you have? How many in the discard do you have? Things like that, and then noticing the way that they hold each time can give you enough interaction points to actually build this up. So that's the only way to really implement it, is to give them prompts. But like I said, the trick is making sure that you and your opponent are actually thinking about the same thing. Now, I'm going to cherry pick Zelda, a very good Bayonet player in the audience. Can I ask you why it worked so well for Poltergeist?
Well, if you can read your opponent correctly,
Okay.
then you could decide whether to keep item locking them, or you just go poltergeist and you just take a big knockout.
Absolutely. So it gives you a little bit more information to make the choice between your two things. And the other thing as well is that when you ask your opponent how many cards they have in hand, and your attack does damage for each card in their hand, it's very easy to make sure that you and the opponent are thinking about the exact same thing. And that means that their body language and your read of it are influenced by the same point. Right? If you end up, like we've been talking about a little bit, if you ask them how many cards in hand and you're worried about completely different things, you'll just end up with completely wrong reads. So this is a very rare skill, and I almost never use it, but if you are almost losing and you absolutely have no other choice, you can employ these kind of tactics. Has anyone done anything like this before in their own games that we can kind of compare to? Remy, be nice and loud and I'll repeat if not.
So my opponent has had one card in hand,
Okay, your opponent has one card in hand.
and I asked them how many cards in hand. Sometimes it's not that visible.
Yep.
They say one card, and if they're you can read it just off their eyes or how
Okay.
they played the turn before.
Awesome.
If they're going first and they played out their entire hand, it was strong. They're probably having a supporter in their last card.
Makes sense. Makes sense a lot. Yeah. So that's good. So same technique that I was talking about, asking them, prompting them, and seeing their response is really good. Now, on the flip side, I want to talk about ways that you can try and not give away this information. So if you are asked how many cards in hand, try and give the exact same response every single time. Body language, tone of voice, whether you move the cards, whether you count them, anything like that. It's really good. You'll notice one player is great at this, Lucas Zink. I don't know if you've ever watched him on stream. He will lay out his cards and sit there during his turn, and if his opponent asks him how many, he'll just look at him. We've got a question.
Do you have to answer that question?
How many cards in hand?
Yeah.
Yes, it's public knowledge. Yeah, it's public knowledge. If they were to ask how many cards in deck, you would also have to answer how many cards in discard, etc. It's all public knowledge, yeah. So we're going to talk about how you can not do that. That's one technique, is obviously just always display the same reaction every time. But there is one fun one that I really like, especially for kids, is that the biggest giveaway of if your opponent has boss or wants to boss is where their eyes go. Has anyone noticed their opponent looking at their benched Pokemon aggressively? Has anyone seen this? Yeah. You've seen this? So you'll just like be sitting there and suddenly your opponent is just like drilling holes into like your bench specificity, right? Like over and over. So that's probably the easiest way to tell that they're thinking about that. Now, obviously you can use that to trick your opponent, but the easiest way is, it's kind of fun. You can unfocus your eyes and you can look just above the bench. And if you get really good at this, you can unfocus your eyes and you're always looking in the same spot, but you can actually see the whole bench. So it's a fun little way to like, I guess, bring physical control of like your body into Pokemon, which is typically just a mental game. You can almost get a bit of training with your eyes to be able to not give away that, that tactic. So that's in terms of physical body reading. That's basically what I want to talk about in that regard. You just don't want to give your opponent the data points to ever get a bit of a read on you. And this comes up so little in games that I don't like to talk about it outside of something like this where it's kind of like fun, because you should only do it when it's the absolute fallback. Yeah, the absolute fallback. And there's a lot of ways that bluffing can go wrong. So I've got two really good stories of one when it goes right and one when it goes really poorly. So I want to use, once again, I want to do this tactic here, where I want someone to come up and I want someone to sit with me and we're going to play another little game and then we're going to lead in from there. I've got someone in the back with their hand up. Attila, you want to come up? Okay, come up. All right, my friend. Okay. Real cards this time. Yep. We're going to play a game. We're getting a mic. Okay. Excellent. All right, guys. We're going to play Iono or Research. All right. Anyone had to play this mini game before in a real game? We've got a hand over there, hand over there, hand over there. Okay. All right. How do you decide this? How do you decide this thing so far? So anyone in the front row want to give me an answer? Okay, how about if it's really early on? All right, so we're playing Iono or Research.
Depending on your opponent's setup.
Yep, makes sense. Let's play it. All right, Attila?
Yep.
You can have Iono or Research. All right, I'm gonna go pass. All right.
Yep. Okay.
What do you think?
Wait, do I draw?
Yeah, draw for turn. What do you think?
Draw.
So you're going to Iono Research, not based on your hand, but based on what you think about me. So
I think I research.
why do you think you research?
You didn't play a buddy or an energy down last turn.
Okay, try not to read the board, try and read the person.
Or-
Yeah, so try and look at what I'm doing for a little bit and then think if you want to do that or not, yeah? What do you think? Should you Iono or Research?
I still think research.
Okay, and why is that?
I still think you can't have too much in your hand.
Okay. Am I
Well,
doing
yes.
anything that might
I
indicate?
think actually I think Iono's better.
Okay.
I think your hand's Ultra Ball plus research.
All right, final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Go for it.
You know?
All right. You are wrong.
Dang it.
Now, he's right, but this, I want to talk about, this is, in my opinion, thank you, Attila. If you want, you can go back and sit down, and I'll explain what we just did there. And Attila was not wrong. Attila was obviously very much influenced by me to say that answer. But I think this is the worst way you can bluff your opponent in the entire game of Pokemon. Anyone know what I was doing? Remy. Faking an Ultra Ball. Okay. Now, I faked an Ultra Ball. I was, putting cards down 3 at a time to try and say, look, I've got Ultra Ball, right? And then try and influence them to Iono. I think this is the worst way to bluff in the entire game because it just shouldn't work. Like, as soon as you're aware of it, well, first off, why would you be doing that in the first place? Why would you be doing actions during your turn? We just talked about not giving away information. Why would you be doing it and directly giving them information? The only reason that you could be doing that is to try and trick them. So your opponent should be like, man, I feel like my opponent's a pretty decent player. They probably shouldn't be giving me any information during their turn. So if they are, I don't think I should listen to it. And there was a very good game a long time ago in LAIC, so a few years ago. A top player, Gabe Smart, was doing this to me. And I saw him doing 3 cards, and I was in my hand, and I was seconds away from playing Marnie. Seconds away from basically Iono. And I see him doing this Ultra Ball thing with both playing Lugia. And I go to myself, I was like, there's no way, Gabe, there is no way you're doing this. Like, absolutely not. And so I was like, all right, research. So I researched, next turn he goes draw pass. Because his hand was completely dead, but he was trying to get me to Marnie. And if I had played it, and if he hadn't have even tried to trick me, every day I would have played Marnie and he probably would have won. He probably would have got double Archeops and attacked and it would have been fine. So by trying to influence your opponent, if they actually have any wits about them, you'll be actively hurting yourself. And this is why it's one of those things I try not to encourage, because if you do it wrong, it has terrible, terrible, terrible consequences. So, to recap, that's some ways to do it, some ways to protect yourself from body language-based reading. And now we're going to try and look at a way we can actually do bluffing properly. Has anyone successfully done any bluffing? All right, Remy's got his hand up again. He's got 100 ways to do it. We've got someone up in the back. Do you want to give me an answer? I will repeat it afterwards, so go for it.
Can be like games, right?
Yeah.
So one time, day two.
All right, you're going to get a mic, so go for it.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll get it. It's fine.
Okay.
I was playing Guardy and they were playing Rich Drago,
All right, Guardy versus Reggie Drago.
and I don't know. I was really tired, so
Yeah.
they played on Jamming Tower to knock out my Drifloon mid-turn,
Okay.
and they had prized I think their last Rich Drago.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I was just promote they had 3 prizes left, and I had Mana Fee down. I'm like, oh, I'll promote my Clef Key, shut off their abilities. So as soon as I did it, I realized, oh, I'm also turning off my own abilities. But I kind of noticed that he didn't really realize that would turn off my Mana Fee. So I
Okay.
just kind of, just didn't really make it.
Okay.
Didn't really do anything differently.
Okay.
He didn't go for it, and I won. And then the next game, I purposely retreated into Klefki with Mana Fee on the board because I knew
Okay.
that he didn't. Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I like the intention. I do think your opponent might need a bit of practice, but I appreciate the story nonetheless. That's good. So, one of the best ways if you want to trick your opponent is to make them feel like they're the ones outplaying you. All right, so you got to make them feel somehow like they're really, really smart. Okay, and I'm going to do a really good example of this. Again, it comes from one of my games. This is transplanted from a different format, but we are going to do this. I'm going to make some plays, and I'm going to get you guys. Hello, Lindsay. We got a. I was told I would press the power button and it would go right on, so we can watch some TV in the meantime. All right, guys, TV time. Excellent.
Set that up.
Very nice.
You guys set that up.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, now I'm gonna get into my computer and I'll show you guys. Yeah, it must have timed out, so unfortunate. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I would like everyone to have a look, and I want you to think about what you should do as the Dragapult player. So don't worry too much about the validity of the board. I'm gonna make some plays on this side, and then I dropped out of internet again. We're going to have technical difficulties for about 30 seconds. And then we're going to go. So I'm going to make a few plays on the side of the Raging Bolt player. And then I'm going to get you guys to think how you can outplay me. Okay? So I'm going to make some plays. There we go. Okay, I'm going to bench both my Hoot Hoot. And I'm going to retreat. And I am going to pass. All right, everyone. Take a look. Take a moment. Have a think, and I want you guys to try and outplay me. All right, too many hands up already. Give it another 10 seconds. Hit the board, and I want you guys to outplay me. All right.
But how much damage is there on the Draglock?
No damage on the board. The Dracloak can't use its ability. That's the marker. Yep.
It's a token.
Good point. Thank you, man. All right, let's give it a go. I would like the Australian kid in the back, please.
So I think how much is on?
So outplay me, please.
Yeah. Wait, so how much is on the Dragapult?
There's no damage anywhere.
How much energy?
Any energy on the
Dragapult.
Dragapult? It's got a Neo Upper.
Oh, so I think you could Halukia onto double Hoo Hoo,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could
Okay.
boss. Oh,
All right, so we're going to answer number one, and we'll reveal which one's correct at the end. So you think Lucha Boss. All right, right here.
I think you don't knock anything out. They have no tears.
Okay, so you think they put down double Hoot Hoot. Remember, I'm the one playing against you, so I put down double Hoot Hoot, and then I put out the Fez. And so you're going to go Phantom Dive
Yeah, probably just damage.
and set everything up and try and win next turn? What does that accomplish? Little man at the front.
Wait, I have another idea.
Okay.
So I think you should Halucha 10 on the fan.
Okay.
And then 10 on one of the Hoot Hoots.
All right.
then you boss up Raging Bolt,
All right.
knock it out as well as one of the hoots.
Okay, so we're going to entertain that point. So you're going to do that, and then I'm going to go Raging Bolt, and then I'm going to go big one, Seder, Teal Mask, attach, Noctowl, yada yada, knock you out. Are you okay with that?
Towel.
Bench Teal Mask, Noctowl, because you said you were going to kill the Bolt, right?
How
And
do you
leave
know
one
you
Hoot
have all
Hoot?
those cards in hand?
Leave one Hoot Hoot? I got 6.
Yeah, I don't think you have all of them.
Right, what if I do?
You're blushing.
All right, we've got a question over there.
I think like you just didn't do anything.
Okay.
Like play other Pokemon, you have just big balls to attack,
Yep.
big balls that don't do anything.
There we go. Okay. So do you think I made a mistake by putting down the 2 Hoot Hoots?
Yeah.
Okay.
You boss the Noctowl
Mm-hmm.
over. Then you play Halucha. You put 10-10 on the fan and the Pheasantipity. And then you pass.
Okay. That's another one. Anyone? We've got a question from, at the back. Answer.
I think you go Bossa Hoo Hoo, Halucha, 10 on Pheasant, 10 on the other Hoo Hoo, and then Fan Dive, kill double Hoo Hoo.
All right. That's not too bad at all. And then, sorry, we just got one more. We'll go up the back. I want Mateusz to answer. All right.
I will speak for him. Okay. No.
Zrobić Haulucze w Hoot Fanrotom.
Haulucha to 10 to Fanrotom and Hoot Hoot.
Okay.
And then i potem zaatakować z pulta, obić za 200
Okay.
w
And then Phantom Dive into the Fez and 3 on Fanrotom and 3 on Hoot Hoot.
Okay.
So we bench lock him.
And he can't attack with the Raging Bolt X, and he can't draw KO, has KO on.
Okay.
Four prize cards next turn.
Awesome. Okay, so we got a couple good answers. So we have bench lock, which sounds really smart, right? That sounds super smart because then the opponent can't use their area 0, they can't use Noctowl, they can't get a Raging Bolt in play, they can't take a knockout. Awesome. That sounds really good. We also have some aggressive plays that would take out both Hoot Hoot. So, who knows what my mistake was as the Bolt player? All right, we'll go with Remy.
Pushing up fast and bench locking yourself.
Aha, okay, so we're all in agreement. The best way to play this out is to leave me bench locked and hit the Fez, correct?
No.
Correct. We got one no, but we're going to ignore you. Okay, so, all right, we're going to go set damage. So we're going to Phantom Die. Let's say, we'll go 2-3-3 or 2-2-2, let's say, okay? All right, guess what, everyone? You all thought I made a misplay, but I told you specifically beforehand that I was going to try and make you guys feel super smart. All right, so my turn. All right, I'm going to Turo my Fez. All right, okay, and then I'm going to put up Bolt. Now I'm going to go Teal Mask, and I'm going to use the Noctowl that was meant to be in my hand. I'm going to go Noctowl now, and then I'm going to go for, I'm going to get a Nest Ball, and I will get a ball. And then what I'm going to do is go Nest Ball for Big Raging Bolt. I'm going to go Vessel. I'm going to get myself a Grass Energy and a Lightning Energy. I'll Teal Dance. I'll go Lightning Energy to Raging Bolt. Then I will go Nest Ball for a Latias. And then we are going to retreat. And my board was meant to have one more energy, but you guys get the point nonetheless. Then I'm going to go Energy Switch. And then I will take a knockout. So the point of that is that I explicitly told you guys beforehand that I was going to make you seem really smart. All right? Okay, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. And this exact board with a very different matchup happened against someone who's been in the top 4 of several regionals this season. Now, I'm not going to out anyone because, I don't want to make them, have any shame. But basically, I was playing Terapagos, and I intentionally blocked myself because the only way I win is if I don't lose a knockout next turn. I push up the Fez against Regidrago, and they go Phantom Dive, and then I go Penny the Fez, bench Terapagos, Noctowl, knockout, and they immediately conceded, and were like, what are the chances you have Penny? Okay, this is exactly how bluffing can work, because you make them feel like they're being really smart. And it's the only way this kind of thing ever works, and you only do it when you're in the absolute worst scenario. So who there thought that I made a mistake by benching the Hoot Hoots? 1, 2, okay. A lot of very good players in the room thought that I made the mistake, okay? So typically, if you know your opponent knows what they're doing and they make a mistake, you really need to think about it for more than 10 seconds because sometimes you might be not giving them enough credit, all right? So in this kind of scenario, it should be pretty telegraphed. If your opponent, let's say you're playing against Tord, right? He puts down double hoot hoot. Do you think to yourself, you know what? Yeah, Tord, that guy, why would he do that? That's crazy. You know what I mean? This guy sucks. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way you would do that. So you have to think for a second and be like, all right, what am I missing? What are they doing? And it should, to be honest, it should be more telegraphed at that point, right? By doing such like a mistake, if you think about it quite well enough, you know that, all right, let's assume they're not making a mistake. You know what? I have to do exactly the opposite of what they want me to do. And in my scenario, I have to do this because if it doesn't work, then I just lose. And I only ever do this where every other scenario loses me the game anyway. I don't do it when I've got two kind of competing scenarios. I only do it when I absolutely have to lose. Anyone kind of not understand that so far? Because I feel like it makes sense, but if anyone in the audience still doesn't get it, please let me know. Matt?
At the mic, this is perfect. I have a question.
Yes.
You said that you would only do this against, like, it would, like, it's a big red flag if your opponent's good. Let's say you're, like, at a regional, and it's, like, round 2, round 3, you're XO, and you don't know who your opponent is, and they do this. Like, what? Because the line that a lot of other people suggested, which is go, like, Lucha, kill double hoot, that opens you up to just getting killed by Raging Bolt, right? At what point do you go, okay, this player might be good enough where I am not gonna, like, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say, I'm gonna play as if you know what you're doing?
That's good. That's a really good question. And that's why it's difficult as well. So I think a lot of the time you should know, like, the higher you get up in a tournament, the more so. And typically you try and punish your opponent's mistakes and assume that they're making mistakes only when you need to as well. So that's a really good point. So you could look at this board in a different position as well. So we could look at this like, all right, we are in such a bad position that maybe we need them to just not have it, right? Now, the way that I framed this scenario with the whole, like, beforehand that I want you to, feel smart, I want you to do everything, is obvious that, you know, I was kind of bluffing. But in a scenario like this, do you think that you have to do that to win? Would you think that you had to hit the fez to win? It's kind of a tough one, right? It's a bit 50-50.
Well, okay, if you don't mind. I was going to say, like, that seemed like, when I was watching, I was like, that seemed like the safest play, because even if they go Turo, they need E-switch, teal dance, attach, Sada. Like, they needed, not Sada, but they needed Turo, E-switch, teal dance, attach. I was like, that seems like a lot, versus if you swing, you give them Fez, and I'm like, oh, that seems a little suspicious.
Yeah. It's a bit dodgy. I think when they have a large hand like that, I think it was the hand size that could kind of give it away.
Right, that's fair.
I think that, let's say you had Iono. So it's also to do with when you have influence over your opponent's hand. If you can't touch your opponent's hand at all is when you should be more scared. Because they get to play completely accordingly. Because they're not playing probabilistically at that point if they know that you can't touch their hand, right? So that's probably the best way to think about it like that. But this is the hard part about Pokemon, and it's figuring out, like, okay, well, are they actually bluffing or not? Now, we have a very, very lucky situation in Pokemon. The game theory and these kind of, like, mixed strategy decisions based on what they do and normally don't do are so uncommon that we don't really have to think about it very much. If like, the entire Pokemon community watched this video and then immediately started trying to do these things, suddenly the game would change because we'd all have to now react, oh, but what if they're doing this on purpose? What if they're doing this to seem like they're doing it on purpose? You know what I mean? So suddenly that's when you get into the loop. But at the moment, there's no real, like, feedback loops in terms of this at the moment in Pokemon. But it is a good question. And again, this is why they're dangerous skills, because if you do it in the wrong setting, you can really hurt yourself. So this is the best scenario. Typically, it's when your opponent's back to the wall. So because you're in such a bad spot, but let's say you're in a dominating spot in this board state. Let's say they had, you know, maybe only 3 prizes each. Then you would consider just being more aggressive. But additionally, like, the game is so formulaic and probabilistic that we rarely have to think about the, like, chance our opponent's lying to us, because one play would just be so strong. We'll almost always do that. So awesome. Now, I would like to do something different before I move on. So these topics, the 2 bluffing, they all kind of work together. We're going to wrap up on those. Before we have an interim, I would like someone in the audience, I want you to come up, and I want you to ask the most pressing question you've had in Pokemon, or something that you haven't been able to get an answer to in your time playing. I'll give you all a minute to think about that. Anything that you've never got an answer for, anything that you've been really wanting to learn, And then I want someone to come up and I want to have a one-on-one and I want to see if we can get an answer to that. All right, everyone have a think. I'm going to sort this out over here and then I want everyone to see if you can come up with one. I see some cogs turning somewhere. Okay, I think you've got one.
I do.
You want to come up?
Sure.
All right, Remy, come have a look. Okay.
I'm just gonna clip it on the top of your shirt. Thank you.
All right, man. Let's hear it.
What happens
Mm-hmm.
when my opponent bluffs me
Mm-hmm.
and I know that they're not bluffing, but what if they are bluffing? Like, how do you escape that loop?
Well, I think you're actually bluffing me because I don't reckon that my question makes any sense. But I think in your head you're trying to bluff me.
No. But like,
Okay, let's hear it.
so
All right.
so if you're in the loop of like, if I'm bluffing you, sorry.
Aha,
It's hard to explain. No, it's hard to explain. It's like,
Yeah.
if you're in the loop of thinking that they're bluffing when they're not bluffing, and then going to the fact that they're not bluffing, like, how do you escape that loop?
Okay, so there's a maths answer to this, and we're not going to go into it too much because one, I don't know it perfectly because I'm not a mathematician, and two, it would take a lot to understand it. There's something called a Nash equilibria, and it's really common in like advanced maths and in poker, where the idea that this happens, right? And what they do is they do a whole bunch of calculations and they figure out what is the optimal strategy when you get stuck in this loop. Okay, what can we do to kind of get to that? Well, basically, we're very lucky, like I said, that we don't really get into this loop in the first place, right? So we don't have enough decision points and enough, like interaction points to where this loop starts. The other thing as well is that so often our players are just way better probabilistically that we can just ignore our opponent and we just play solitaire in most of the time. So we're very lucky that that doesn't happen. Do you have a specific scenario that this has happened in for you?
I mean, let's say my opponent, the scenario before my opponent has one card.
Yep.
And their setup was very strong.
Okay.
And they're very confident in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not sure that they're confident.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like that.
So they're very confident in their hand and we're not sure about it. So we're lucky that most of our hand reading can be done and should be done formulaically.
Yeah.
So it should not be any behavior at all. We should be able to see what they did and know that they should always be doing the right thing. So if they ultra ball away a research, right? We know they've got another supporter.
Yeah.
Because why would they ever do that, right? And the risk is just too high for them to try and bluff us like that, yeah?
Yeah.
So our game is simple enough that we don't really need to worry about getting into them. If we do get into a loop like that, it's very unlikely that it would stick. And if it does kind of happen, we're in a bit of trouble. And we just kind of have to make a thing. But we can make a choice. And the idea is that we get into this loop. And then we just do something. And then we see what happens. And we see if we were right or wrong.
Yeah.
And then the next time the loop happens, all right, next time we're stuck in the loop, we can kind of have a bit more information because we saw what they did last time. We saw how they behaved. And then we can go, well, last time they did this and did that, they were lying or they weren't lying.
Yeah.
And then we can make our decision based on that, right? And then that becomes a separate loop. So it's terrible. Yeah. And this is why we rarely play on body language. But you're right in that that's like a big issue, that we get stuck in these loops. Like again, we're very lucky and we don't have to worry about it. But if you get in it, I'm very sorry. That was a really good question.
All right.
Thank you, Remy. Excellent. Okay, last secret skill. We're going to move on. If there's any more questions on that kind of stuff, then please. I hope that I gave you guys a bit of dread if you ever get into these kind of things. But like I said, worst case scenario, you can use it as a tiny bit to get extra information. So, and yeah, please don't try and do the ultra ball bluff on your opponent. It will hurt you. It will actively hurt you. So, okay, no more questions, and otherwise we're going to move on. Yeah.
Has anyone figured out all the implied odds as to which would be the most optimal play? Like, all right, I've got a 1 in 10 chance to draw this card. Not great, this hand. Maybe I should take my direction another way. Is there any way to sort of, has anyone ever done the calculations like, all right, I've got 42 cards in deck, 3 cards left. What's my odds to draw that card? All right, it's 20%. If I go this way, I've probably got a 40% chance to stall them, which would give me better odds. Has anyone gone that complicated into the game?
So there has been a few scenarios which, if you take an isolated one, you can do some numbers, right? You can do it and figure out which one's better. But Pokemon is very, very complex. Way more complicated, to be honest, to calculate than something like poker, and something even like chess, to be honest. It's more difficult for Pokemon. So we would need like a serious like solver to be able to do that no one's done yet. But you can take simple scenarios in simple steps. So you can basically just say, I've got a 1 in 10 in this, and the other one is 2 in 10. Obviously, I did the 2 in 10. There was a really interesting scenario earlier where Kieran had a board stayed up, and the answer was like, you know, as people would go nest ball for Slitherwing, Prime Catcher, Iono. But if you nest balled for Fez first, drew some cards, and then hit the Slitherwing, you would then be more protected from disruption from your opponent in the future because you have a Fez on the board. So whilst your chance to hit your play that turn might be lower, your chance to hit the play and still win the game might be higher, right? So that's something we cannot figure out at all. And I'd be really interested that if we ever did get a solver, what it would say about our plays. But we unfortunately just cannot play in that way at all because we just can't see that far ahead.
So it's still a bit an instinct rather than...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no way that we could ever calculate like the result of a game from now. Like we play very instanced, and I think it's like close to pretty good, but I don't think it would be perfect by anyways. Yeah. So awesome. Also, actually, on that note, we are very like primed to like get immediate value. So we're like we want our play to happen more often than not, rather than take the risky one. And sometimes we have kind of conquered that. You'll see a lot of people make very risky plays because they know that they have to have that hit to win. And this is very common, like playing to win rather than playing to like lose slower is a really common theme. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of people talk about that, but that is like one of the hardest things to do in Pokemon. And there's a lot of ways that I'm sure now we would be doing it, not the way computers would tell us to do it. But maybe in 5-10 years we'll have a computer to tell us that, but right now we don't. So yeah. Awesome. We're gonna move on from that. And I really want to talk a little bit about time management, and more so a little bit of a secret way to do it, and maybe not secret, but a way we do it. So I want to kind of poll the audience. How many ties have you got? We're going to go around this season in your tournaments. Front, ballpark. 2? How many games do you reckon you played? That's insane. What deck do you play? Okay. So 2 ties in 200 games. Okay, that's incredible.
Maybe like 10 times.
10 times? How many games?
Like 500.
500, wow. Okay, we got some serious fast players in the front. Okay, excellent. How about you?
Oh, I'm a judge.
You're a judge? Okay, how many times have you called people on being slow?
I feel like 5 times every round. I'm like...
slow play.
Locals
okay,
every time.
Okay. Next row.
Like 30 to 40.
Okay.
Out of like
240?
400 games.
Okay.
I think in majors this year I've tied maybe like 1 to 2 times each tournament, playing like Dragapult and Gardevoir, but
all right.
A lot of the ties are like intentional. Like if it's like a bad matchup and I lose game 1 and then just like win game 2. But yeah, I'd say like 1 to 2, played like 9 majors this season.
Okay, that's a pretty reasonable amount. All right, how about the young girl in the middle row?
I usually
1 million times?
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Okay, how about the young man in the back?
Is it for major tournaments?
Let's go majors, sure.
I probably played about 50 games, tied twice.
That's fantastic. All right. Now, just one more from you. Do you have any tips or techniques that you use to avoid ties?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. How about that guy there?
So, well, actually, I've tied a lot. So, at
guilty.
NEIC, I went 5-1-4-1.
Wait, what was that? 5-1-4?
5-4-1.
5-4-1. So, how many ties was that?
No, sorry. 5-1-4.
5-1-4. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Dude. That's a lot of ties, man. Okay. So, a lot of people talk about like the best ways to manage time, and there's a few. You know, there's scooping early. There's making sure your opponent doesn't slow play you. I mean, those are the main ones. But there's also just playing faster. And that's what I want to really talk about. And I actually want to talk about the ways that you plan out your turns. So we should have 3 phases, all right? So recently with some of the kids that I coach, I've started doing this thing where in the middle of, during their opponent's turn, the board is wide open, all right? And I'm going to borrow this little nice frame from over here. Here's the board. So this is our opponent's. This is mine. During my turn, I'll put this divider in between myself and my opponent. And I'm doing that so that I can't see the opponent's board. Does anyone think that should make it easier or harder for me? Harder, 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 harder. Easier, okay. You got telekinesis or something? Bingo, you were at my earlier talk, weren't you? Okay, so I told this to a bunch of kids earlier, and we've got one in the audience who has seemingly been a very good listener. So it shouldn't actually make a difference at all. And the reason for that is that we should kind of think of the board and the game state as a snapshot. And as soon as it finishes changing, we should have all of that information. So it's during our opponent's turn is when we gain most of the information. So that's our information gathering phase. So when we go to our turn, if nothing has changed on the board, there is no reason for us to have to look at the opponent's discard, to have to like figure out what's on their bench. We should just know that kind of stuff. Any idea why it might be important to know that stuff during our turn? Why might that interact with like pace of play, anything like that? Man in the back.
Then you don't have to like check their discard during your turn.
Good. So no checking discard during their turn. That saves time. It also affects something called decision-making inertia. And what that means is like inertia as a concept is that it's hard to change directions. All right. So once you're going in one way, to try and change directions, you end up slowing down. And it's the same concept in Pokemon when you're trying to make decisions. That if you're making a decision and you go, oh wait, I need to think about how many energy they have in their discard. Suddenly you stop what you're doing, you stop your thinking, and you veer into checking how many energy they have. And to do that, you have to first realize that you don't have the information, which takes up your attention. Then you have to think, oh, all right, I got to check it. And then you even have to do all like the spatial reasoning. So you have to think, all right, man, I have to put my deck down, I have to grab theirs, I have to open it up, see how many energy, and all of that takes time and mental effort. So the ideal sequence is as follows, and I'm going to get the young man over there to tell me what the sequence should be, because you were listening earlier. So what are the 3 modes that we should be in, and what's the sequence for us to plan our turn properly?
You should understand what you have, and then what your opponent has, and then you should just be able to play without needing to know anything else.
Okay, so we shouldn't need to gather any more information. That's great. So we should gather information, ideally during their turn. Then we should plan, and then we should do. So there shouldn't really be planning, doing, planning, doing, planning, doing. It should just be plan, and then do 3 or 4 things until you get shown new information. Okay, so as soon as you encounter anything that changes your knowledge of the board, or changes the amount that you know, then you stop. Okay, so a good example of that is, all right, I'm going to go Nest Ball, Buddy Poffin, Fez. All right, you can't really plan beyond the Fez because you need to know what you get first. All right, so you do as much as you can until you gather new knowledge. Now, sometimes we can actually plan a little bit further than that, and a good example is Pokegear. So let's say our deck has Iono and Arven in it, and we think to ourselves, all right, I'm going to gear, and if I get an Arven, I know exactly what I'm going to get from it. I'm going to get Buddy Poffin, and I know exactly what I'm going to get from the Buddy Poffin. I'm going to get 2 Dreepy. And if one of the Dreepies is prized, I'll get a Duskull instead. All right? So that's one chart we can already have. Even though it's a random outcome, we can do that. And then we can go, all right, if I get Iono, then I'm just going to play the Iono. And suddenly, we can just play things like back to back to back to back. And we might shave maybe 5 seconds per like break in decision making and thinking and gathering, because we don't have to switch, we don't have to deal with the inertia, and you'll find this saves a ridiculous amount of time, but it also increases the quality of your decisions, because you don't have to be switching between, and you don't have like lost, you don't have just mixed attention in general. And generally when it comes to like focus and attention, having one fixed task at a time and not having to switch and use your attention points will overall help accuracy and obviously time quite a lot. And the reveal, which is my proud achievement for the season, which was a small season, I didn't play that many tournaments, but I achieved 0 ties. Round of applause, please, everyone. Thank you, thank you. And it was only playing Gardevoir and Dragapult, and I think I only won 1 game 1-0. So I'm proud of that achievement. You all got to have small victories. So, but I really do feel like this playing, and I was talking to Owen Dalgard earlier, who's had a great first year Masters, sorry. And he was saying that this is all stuff that you do, that all the top players do without even thinking. But having it actually like really planned out and talked about is very useful for anyone who's not quite at that stage yet, because you should just be in that, and you will get there eventually, but it's kind of like a fast way to actually get there is if you already know how this framework should work. So that's a really good way to kind of plan forward. And in terms of like chunks, we should already kind of see these things ahead. How far do you think you can plan ahead so far in a game? I'd start with, I like that young man up in the back, Matej. How many turns can you plan ahead?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. That's impressive. Okay, let's go the one guy in front of him.
Probably 2, 3.
2 or 3. Okay. How about the young man's dad?
I reckon you should be able to. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, 2 or 3.
Okay. All right. Anyone else want to throw their answer in? Higher, lower? Yeah.
I'd say only 1.
Only 1? Okay. I respect that. My answer is I reckon it depends completely on the game. So I think it depends how many branches we're going to end up with. So if it's the end of the game, it should be pretty easy to figure out, to see the more turns. So the further you are into the game, the easier it is to see the turns. And I think at the very beginning, it's easier to see maybe 2 or 3. In the middle, it's a total nightmare, right? Because that's when the most variance occurs and the most branches are. I wish I had a whiteboard. I could do amazing things with a whiteboard, but at other times. So the end of the game, it's obviously super, super easy. But Pokemon is a weird one because our game is like slightly simple in terms of decision sample space because we have a very low amount of turns. But in our own turn, there are like way more branches than there are in another game. So the interaction branches are much lower. So I don't know enough like mathematical terms to use for this, but basically it would expand at a lower rate because we don't pass back and forth between each person. But in our own turn, there's tons and tons of routes. Like what do we draw? Because we draw so many cards compared to something like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! That it's completely different. And chess obviously has a million paths. But this brings me to another question that I wish our next speaker actually for tonight, Ian Robb, who has obviously had a lot of success over a lot of card games, will be great for this. Who thinks, actually, a better way to put this, I am going to pick a few people and I want you to say what you think the hardest card game you've played is. All right, ready? I'm going to pick someone. Remy.
Does chess count as a card game?
No.
One Piece is pretty hard.
One Piece is pretty hard. Okay. Front row, please. I like you answering.
Magic.
Magic. Okay, Magic's the hardest. Okay. Anyone else want to answer? Put your hand super high if you feel like you got a cool answer. All right.
I feel like it's Pokemon.
Ooh,
I feel like,
contentious answer.
Okay, because I feel like when I used to play Hearthstone and Runeterra and stuff like that, you kind of just play out of your hand. I feel like in Pokemon, since you have so much tutoring, you have like so many possibilities every turn that I feel like there's so many ways to go wrong because you have so many options every turn.
Amazing. This is a really fun topic. I think it's basically apples and oranges, right? Like they're so fundamentally different that I don't think they can actually be compared. They've got some core components, but Pokemon is really like an athletic card game as opposed to like a war card game where you're like battling your opponent in terms of deception, which the other ones are. So I say someone in the back punching, which is a good way to think about it. Thank you. But it's just completely different, right? Like we're just trying to execute our own strategy as best as we can, and we assume that they play quite well. But I like the answer of Pokemon because I think it actually is the hardest to play perfectly. And I touched on that earlier in that like, I don't think that the better player wins more often in Pokemon as opposed to something like Magic, something like One Piece, where to be honest, if you're better than your opponent, you're going to win a ridiculous amount of the time. But in Pokemon, whilst your win rate might not be better, I think that to play it perfectly is much more difficult. And we're not going to know that until we have some computer that can eventually play it, and then we might realize how difficult it is. But it truly, truly is deceptively hard because it seems so easy to get into, and it's why it's such a brilliantly designed game. Because we have so much card draw and so much probabilities to manage, that it's very easy to play other games and be like, man, this is like so hard. The strategy in Pokemon is like so easy. And it kind of is because the reduced turn counts. Like we don't actually have to see as far ahead and there's no interaction between the opponents, but it truly is deceptively difficult. And the best players prove that over and over by being able to win consistently. So I think that's most of what I wanted to talk about in terms of the secret skills. Does anyone completely disagree? Does anyone think, you know what, Henry, no, Pokemon's super easy, man. Like, I just get unlucky, like, all the time. Like, oh, if I just stop bricking, you know. No, you don't think so? Nah? Anyone else think that? Okay. Well, that's pretty much all the kind of cool stuff I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would love if there's a ton of questions. The chair is open as long as we're here. If anyone else wants to come up and do what Remy and I did earlier, I would absolutely love that for the next kind of 10 minutes. If anyone else has questions and wants to come up. Oh, everyone's a bit shy. Everyone's a bit shy. You want to come up? Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Be awesome. I'm going to check my notes, make sure I didn't feel like I missed anything that I wanted to talk about today. Let's see.
I think I'm supposed to clip this on.
Okay. I did forget something, everyone. You're lucky, so I've got something else to share. Okay.
I can go away for a bit.
No, after, please.
A great talk, by the way. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
So I'm not a very good Pokemon player. I just ride the coattails of my son. He's a decent player.
Okay.
And something that I've been wondering about is how on meta is every major or even local tournament going to be with what I'm deciding to do, because I'm not very good. I'm going off meta, trying rogue decks. And also bolstered by the fact that last year's World Championships was won by what I considered to be an off-meta deck, right?
It was, yeah.
No one saw it coming. I saw Tord in the gallery upstairs in Hawaii, and I asked him the question. I said, "Did you expect it?" And he said straight up, "No, he did not expect a deck like that to win."
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, can one go off-meta and maybe expect a result at some point? Obviously, you need to get it right and nail it, and have some sort of foresight and Nostradamus type of deck, but can it happen, and can I continue to give me hope? Give me some hope, please.
Okay, well, this is awesome. So I'm going to plug him now. If anyone likes this kind of discussion, Jake Gearhart on Twitter constantly talks about stuff like this, so I'm sure you'll find something interesting from there. He does tweet a lot, so you're going to have to bear with it, but he has some really great stuff. So he talks a lot about what's called a centralized metagame. And so what that means is where one deck is clearly better than everything else, that it kind of warps things around. And so maybe you have like one really good deck and then the rest kind of fall off.
That's actually, right?
Drago, exactly. That's actually, funnily enough, when the meta is more centralized, that's the best time for rogue decks to appear. Because you have way less to deal with, right? It's very hard to find a deck that beats everything. But if everything's so centralized about Drago, there's a couple things that happen. So first off, a lot of Drago, so we know what to target. Second off, all the other surrounding decks lose a bit of power because they're worried about Regidrago too. So they take some of their intrinsic power away and they put it towards being able to beat Regidrago. So, first off, you then pick a deck that beats Regidrago or has a decent matchup. And then, even if you have some bad matchups into the surrounding decks, their power has dropped because they've spent so much time trying to beat Regidrago that it actually gives you a bit of an angle to come in with the rogue deck. So the current meta at the moment, I would not expect the rogue deck to win because it's pretty broad. I think we've got several very powerful decks. We've got Pult Noir, which is like notoriously very difficult to beat. Decks that take 50-50s into everything are very hard to rogue deck beat because they do just something that is so clearly powerful.
What's an example of a deck like that?
Pult Noir.
Okay.
Right. Pult Noir, it takes no very, very good matchups. Right. But it's so many 50-50s because of how it works. Sometimes it can just shut out the opponent, it can bench wipe them. It's a very strong deck. I would not expect the rogue deck to win this year. If a rogue deck did win, I will say that, it would be that it is quite a rogue deck, but it was the strongest deck in the format or a very strong deck that wasn't found yet. A rogue deck like Iron Thorns, it won and then never did anything again. That's what makes it a rogue deck. But if a meta deck was to come out of this tournament and win, or an off meta, it would then become meta, in my opinion. It would be that no one has found it just yet, and then it would stick itself into the meta. So that would be my answer for you.
Okay,
give you hope?
Yes, just a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, not for this tournament, but next one.
Appreciate it, thank you very much.
Pleasure. All right, we've got a mic over there. All right, okay, so very lucky everyone. I actually have a great way. So I was talking a bit about at the end, just at the end, what was I talking about? I'm gonna have to refresh myself. I was talking about how you can play a little bit faster by planning more ahead. So, sometimes people ask me, how can you actually practice that? And I have a really boring, but really effective way to do this. And it does improve your pace and it stops you forgetting things. And it's a very rote learning method. So, obviously there's a lot of you guys who are currently in school, but anyone who is in or currently at school, do you like rote learning or do you know what it is? All right. Kid who's currently in school, do you know what rote learning is?
No.
Okay, kid in school's dad. Can you?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, we got a mum.
It's learning by repetition.
Excellent, learning by repetition. So it's something that is laborious rather than understanding the concept, and the repetition is what sticks it in our mind. So I found this technique really useful and really effective. Basically, you get your deck and you grab a card and you write down every single thing it can do. Every single thing. So let's start with Arven, and we go, okay, Arven can get Buddy Poffin, which can then get Dreepy and Duskull. And so we write a chain, and we go, Arven can get this and that, etc. A good example is attackers. So there, let's go with Hawlucha, all right? So the ability. So Hawlucha can do 10-10. that allows Phantom Dive for 70. That allows me to hit something earlier and then Hawlucha kill it later. If I have Turo, I can Hawlucha and reuse it. Yep.
Something like
Fez?
and then Hawlucha.
Fez, Dragapult, excellent. So we can use Hawlucha to kill a Fez with Dragapult. So we just manually write all these things out and we discover them before we play, so that when we play, what happens is that we see a Hawlucha and immediately we know what we can do with it rather than deriving what we can do with it during the game. So rather than think, man, all right, this thing does 10 damage, how can I use it? We actually go the opposite way. We go, all right, I know Hawlucha can let me kill a Fez, it can let me kill a 70 HP Pokemon. Is that relevant for me now? So we get to pattern match in a much better way than trying to like derive from, I guess, first principles as they call it, but trying to use this ability in a creative way. So we can pattern match way better. I think it's incredible. I think it's great. And we do that naturally just by playing a ton of games. But manually writing it out can save those, hundreds of games you might need to play to hit every single scenario. So if you do want to kind of maximize your Pokemon practice, I highly recommend this. I had a student of mine a while back make a PowerPoint for Charizard, and it was the best resource. Like, he could have sold this on Metafy for like $50. It's unbelievable. And he just had it fully to himself because he just went through every single card and made it out. And he said it was like the best practice he ever did. Boring as all hell, but it was really good. So if anyone wants to do that, I highly recommend it. Awesome. Well, if there's any more questions, please feel free to ask. We got one in the back?
Can I go there?
Yes, please come up. I'd love to do this. So we've got until, I'd love to talk for another 15 minutes at most. So please get all your questions in now.
Okay. So my question would be, for which level of play it's more important to take the best deck, and for which level of play it's better to take a good deck that you know perfectly?
Okay, I think you should always take the good deck you know perfectly in every single scenario, unless you are one of the top 50 players in the world. Okay. I think that is always the case because you only get this marginal gain of having the best deck in the room or having the best matchups if you are already playing perfectly. And you're playing so perfectly that you want an additional edge. I don't think the deck choice, realistically, if you're playing a tier 2 or above deck, ever matters. If you look at the top 32 of like most tournaments nowadays, you're going to see a lot of random decks. You're going to see decks that are maybe tier 3, and there's going to be a few of them up there, and there's no real reason why that couldn't be you, because if you're the best player of that archetype, then you're going to end up, someone's going to finish well with it, and I think at the end of the day, it would be you. And people often worry about deck choice a bit too much, especially at Worlds, because you're at Worlds and everyone's really worried. But a lot of deck choice does come down to wanting to feel confident going into the event and feeling that less responsibility is on you as a player and that your deck is going to carry you, right? But realistically, I most enjoy the tournaments where I know exactly what I'm going to play and I do not care and I'm not stressed. I go, like if I was, so I'm not playing Worlds this year. If I was, and I would be playing Dragapult Dusknoir, and I would have decided this 2 weeks ago, and I would be so relaxed right now. I would not be stressing. I wouldn't change a single card in my deck. I would just know exactly what I'm going to do. And that's the best tournament you can actually have.
But that still has to be a really good deck, right? Because I know myself, I choose for the only regional I played, I chose Arcaludon without the poison package.
Yep.
And I knew the deck, I think, for me perfectly. And I was close in every game, but I finished 1-4-2. So that was just, I know my play was probably not that good, but the deck itself also lacked, it was close in every matchup, but it lacked a bit. And I believe on my level, that was not good enough because I know I could not win against good players, but at tables like 800, with a better deck, I could have better chance, even if I made some misplays.
Yeah, I think it's important that your deck is tier 2 and above. I think that is the disclaimer. But at the same time, like if you did play a tier 2 deck and above and you didn't know it as well, do you think you would have done okay? Or do you think that you would have made mistakes that would have lost you the game?
Yeah, probably also.
Yeah,
but,
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but there are also like tier 2 decks that are easier to play than some other ones.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I think the disclaimer is, and I was actually talking to Kieran about this earlier, that as long as the deck is tier 2 and above, it really doesn't matter. But you do have to give yourself some level of baseline to kind of do that. And the only reason, and also at the end of the day, I mean, you do have to enjoy what deck you play. I think that's the most important thing. Not just for like, holistic, like, we're here to have fun, like not just for that, but that you will 100% concentrate better if you're enjoying yourself. There's just no way. Like, sometimes I've just refused to play the best deck because it's just not fun. And I know like I'm just going to get there, I'm going to be miserable all day, and when it counts, like I'm going to make a mistake because I'm just not focusing. So it's both like a point of pride, but also just you're actually going to play better. So,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be my answer. Pleasure. Awesome. So that is my answer. Does anyone kind of disagree with that? Does anyone reckon you should just like always play anti-meta? Yeah? You want to come up? Please do. We need a mic. Let's hear it. Awesome, man.
This is a funny question.
All right.
That. Okay.
All right. All right, Tristan, let's hear it.
Nothing to do with whatever you have been talking about.
That's fine. I'm glad. New topics are great.
Pick 2 dark horses or underdogs that you think could win worlds for Masters.
For
So
like deck or player?
Player. So like you can't choose Isaiah. You can't choose.
Can't choose
Henry
anyone who's
Chow.
done very well. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good question, man. Ooh, okay. Who can I pick? I'm gonna have to think about this for a sec. That's a fun question. Do they have to be masters?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, they have to be masters. All right. Let me have a think. Give me a moment. Who do I think is very, very good? Okay. So, I'm gonna pick one of my good friends. So I'm gonna pick João Medeiros. He's from Brazil. He built my world's winning deck with me, Mewtwo and Mew, and I think he's like Ian Robb. He's done incredible in a whole bunch of card games, like several, like Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, Pokemon. I think eventually he's going to do really, like he's already done exceptionally in Pokemon, but I think if anyone's able to win, I think it would be him. I'm going to have to think for another one. Piper. I know, does that count as a dark horse?
Sure.
Sure? I think Piper is so good. Like, I think for sure. Piper would be a really good one. We had this like 45-minute Gardevoir mirror at Vancouver Regionals, and that ended because my last prize was Screamtail, but it was like the hardest I'd like had to play in like so long. It was awesome. So Piper and then my friend Joao, I reckon. Does that work?
Okay.
Cool. What would be your 2?
For Masters?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You asked the question, man. You gotta have some ideas. What do you think?
I don't know.
You got no one? Okay. What about for your division? You got a dark horse? You can say yourself, but then you still have to give me another answer. Even just one.
All right, myself.
Okay, Tristan's the dark horse. Thanks, man. Good question. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. That was really fun. Anyone have a dark horse they want to answer for Tristan's question? Anyone they were very impressed with this season watching? Yes, man.
And
Let's hear. We get a repeat visitor. All right, repeat visitor. Let's hear it.
so on the topic of worlds,
Yes.
I was wondering how you get over like the ego of winning worlds. How do you get over it?
Ooh. That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
That's a good one. You're already preparing your future problems, is that right?
No, I'm just wondering because
Yeah.
I had a lot of ego after I won 2 ICs.
Okay, and so you feel like you dealt with that now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, to be honest, man, I don't think it sunk in for me until about 2 years afterwards. I don't think for me, I felt like I'd won until about 2 years afterwards. But I think the biggest thing is like, before the tournament, what happened to me was that I was staying with some family of mine, like some relatives, and they were like, they didn't really know what Pokemon was, and they were saying, okay, do you think you're going to do any well? And I was like, yeah, like, I feel like I've practiced so much and like I've played so much. I feel like I'm good enough to win, but I have to get really lucky. Like, anyone has to get pretty lucky on a day, right? And so that to me was kind of already the goal, I guess. Like, I'd practiced enough and I was like confident in myself that I feel like that is the achievement in itself. And I think that's the better way to think about it, that like I'd already kind of got there, you know what I mean, in my mind. Like, I was at the point, my goal was to be as good as I could be at Pokemon, and I was pretty happy that I was, yeah? And I was like, you know what, like, and actually that's probably why I did decently, is because I was like really happy, and I was like, you know what? There's no reason I can't win, but I also don't think I deserve to either. You know what I mean? I don't think I should. I don't think there's any reason that like, oh, I'm so much better than everyone else. If I don't win, I just got unlucky. You know what I mean? Like, there's me and probably the other 15 other people in the room are like good enough to win, or maybe more.
Yeah.
And one of us is going to get really lucky and win.
Yeah.
And if I play 15 tournaments, odds are I'll get one of them. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do it. Try and set yourself an external goal and a way to like assess yourself externally, rather than have it just tied to the tournament. And it'll kind of, one, help you feel better, but then it also might help rein you in when you do win.
Yeah, I kind
Make
of
sense?
agree with that, yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
Was that the way you did it?
I kind of got crushed.
You just started losing a lot and then your ego went down.
So after I won,
Yeah.
juniors, like I was at the top, and then when I went into seniors, I was at the bottom. And I got
okay.
crushed a lot by the like older seniors, like
Mhm.
Templar, Benny, when
Mhm.
he was in the division. But
Do you feel like you're a better player now because of it?
yeah.
Nice. Good question, dude. Thanks for that. Awesome.
Thank you.
That was a really good way to end it. Thanks, man. Question. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for having me. And hopefully I'll talk to you guys all individually sometime soon.